Well, I've always had a really like fun appreciation of the Bury scene because I didn't like to begin with. I just played in Cambridge, and I was a very nervous performer to begin with. And after about 18 months, I started to simmer down with the nerves and started to get a bit more confident. And I had a handful of songs that I was really pleased with. So when I came to Bury, St Edmunds sort of folk scene, I sort of landed on the scene, and I was that bit more complete. I wasn't like a brand new, wet behind the ears greenhorn. I had like a package, as it were, to kind of deliver. I had songs, I had rapport, I had banter, and I could take this sort of complete thing. So it was kind of like, for me, like the Bury St Edmunds scene was like the first place I got to go and test out everything I'd learned on my apprenticeship, if you will, and kind of say, here's me, here's my first EP. I put all this work in. What do people think who've never heard me before? And because I'm sure you can testify to the fact that when you come up as an open micer on a scene and then try to get on and do support and stuff, it's hard for people to see you as anything but that guy they know as a beginner.
It's true.
But you go somewhere new and you've kind of got this, you've got this sheen, you've got a suit of armor, and you're kind of ready to go out and do battle, as it were. I think it was the first time I ever realized that there were scenes similar to what we have in Cambridge, but going on in other places. And also they were just as welcoming and just as friendly, and you could go and play, and it was like a great place to learn. And I think that's what, and I got to play the festival, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years ago? COVID has destroyed my time.
No, yeah, sense of time is ridiculous. Weird.
Yeah, but it's always so nice to get booked for a festival. You play open mics, you play circle sessions and sing arounds, and then you kind of imagine festivals as like where you see the big time artists. So when you get called up to do it, you think, oh, brilliant, I must have made a good impression here.
Yes,
all of that work that I did, is kind of like formulated into something that people actually would be willing to put on the main stage.
But that is true, Chris, isn't it? In the sense, although it's not a kind of graduated profession, there was, we used to share a lot of time in sessions, didn't we? And over in Horningsea, and then, I remember you saying at the time, this is kind of good because it makes, kind of, I'm getting my kind of, the first thing. But then you're absolutely right. And then the performance elements of doing open mics when someone's shoving a microphone in your face, and you're having to, in a sense, learn another thing about music, which is it's not just you and the instrument, it's you and the instrument and the interface of a whole bunch of tech that requires technique, and otherwise people get lost. And then you're right, the festival invite is a sort of entry card, isn't it, into a world where the intimacy might still be there, which is kind of what Bury tries to contain, isn't it? Enough people to make it feel like an event, but not too many people to make you feel like you're kind of anonymous, just this kind of figure standing on a stage. You're still amongst friends, having said that, in subsequent years, of course, you have played some pretty big venues, haven't you? And you've experienced tell me what it's like the first time you ever played where you couldn't see people. You're blinded by the lights.
First time I ever played anything really big, I won the Folk Off the Pier Sheringham Showcase. I think that's what it's called. And you win a slot on the main stage. You get to play 2 songs, and then Fairport Convention come out and give you your prize money. And then it's a 500-seater thing, totally sold out for Fairport Convention, and then you come out and do a couple of songs. And the contrast was like the night before I played a gig to 5 people, and 3 of them had left. In the end, I just had to tell my parents they could go home if they wanted to. I was like, there's no sense of all of us wasting an evening.
Brilliant, man.
And then the following day, I went out and did that, and it was just But I thought, well, all I can do is use what I've learned from doing open mics, which is to try and win people over very quickly, and use use some jokes and some chat. And obviously I was, they could see that I wasn't some big timer there to kind of pull in the crowd. They were all very much with me, but it is a really strange thing because you can't see anything. You hear, and then you get the applause, and it's like a wall of, like 500 people all clapping at the same time. It's like a wall of sound. I thought, well, I've never heard anything like it. And yeah, I mean, I'm never sure which one I prefer, because obviously as a musician you want to expand and grow, but then there's something about that, those simpler gigs with maybe 25 or 30 people in them that just feel that bit more like you're kind of really on point with your message. Like you can make it more about the group of people that are there. It feels like a thing, but then it's always really hard to kind of differentiate between the two, I think.
It's I mean, it's I suppose it's a balance, isn't it? And I guess it's what the industry sort of tries to milk, doesn't it? The idea of fame without content, is a 21st century more, really, isn't it? That so many people wish to be famous for being famous, as if the content of why you're famous isn't important. Whereas, if you just take your songwriting, you've always taken a line about taking the ordinary and turning that into a story that's like an everyman kind of connection, isn't it? And I guess So I mean, the set at Bury, then have you kind of got your head together? What are you going to give us, man? What's the stories? What's the deal?
I'm in an interesting phase at the moment, because I've just finished a new album, so I'm out playing, and I'm trying to beaver away, get those songs as good as I can for the autumn winter, when I've got to sort of take them out properly, as it were. So I'll definitely be playing some stuff off the new album, but it's made me sort of think about the journey that I've been on over these sort of 8 years that I've been writing. And I look back to some of the earliest songs that I ever wrote that I used to play at the Horningsea Circle session, and I'm sort of digging them out and thinking, it makes a really interesting comparison to say, this is the last song that I've written, and this is the first song. I'm never 100% certain, because I might write something, I really want to play that, and then I feel like, I can't, because I wrote that set list ages ago. And
I suppose the focused marketing man, which a thing or two, would be to promote the new album, though, wouldn't it? And then shake it around and kind of throw it at people. And is that not your?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I think. Well, I've got a couple of songs on the new album that I'm really pleased with. I've got one single. I'm only going to release one single before the album comes out.
Oh, okay.
Because I've smashed the piggy bank and there was nothing left in it after recording everything. So I've just got the one single, and it's this song called "One More for the Road," and I'm really pleased with it. Everywhere I've taken it so far, I took it to like Folk on the Pier last weekend, and have been taking it around. People seem to really like it. It's getting a good reaction. So that'll probably be the song that I finish on for sure.
Not the pirate song, then. Your pirate emblem, my man.
Everybody
expect. Is that not? No, really. Come on.
That is standard. Yeah,
it's a family event, Chris. I mean, the crowd would go wild. The children would revolt.
Yeah. No, I always play that. It's just such a nice. It's such a nice twist in the set always. Like people never expect it, and I'm always really happy to. I've never really wanted to play in just one particular style. I always like to experiment and dabble, and I think that's the best way to show sort of the range of what
genre defying is the thing I keep reading, Chris, and I think we'd all agree with that. Would you go on that? Would you say you're genre defying?
Like a fancy way of covering up the fact that I've got like zero attention span. I can't really. I was very lucky when I grew up. I've got an older sister. She's 8 years older than me, and as I grew up, she was always just the coolest person in the world. She knew all about fashion and all about and had all this great advice for me of how to survive on the playground. But the thing that I really loved the most was her music collection. My sister's really big on music for film. So she had just film soundtracks, like 50, 60 different film soundtracks. And, when she would go out for the evening, I'd kind of sneak across the corridor and steal them and listen to them. But I think what that did was it informed me, because a film soundtrack is just whatever suits the scene. There's no genre with that. So I was used to listening to things, I would listen to like 9 Inch Nails, and then I'd listen to John Martin, and then I'd listen to, Bolero. And I was always thrown into this massive, so until I came to Cambridge Folk Club and really kind of found out about that whole open mic scene. I had no idea what folk music really was. So for me, there's a massive carryover from me enjoying all kinds of music and then trying to write my own and being like, well, I don't know how to just sit in one genre, because that wouldn't do it for me. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, no, and
the attention span thing is a problem, but
well, we're not hardly, Chris, hardly. But and the Americana kind of label is the other one that keeps getting slapped on you. It's that idea that you've got a kind of transatlantic sort of empathy. I mean, is that the same root cause? I mean, what's that about?
I think that probably comes from watching transatlantic sessions.
Yeah.
And also sitting in sessions at the Plough and Fleece in Horningsea and listening to just, sea shanty, Johnny Cash, jazz. But I was always kind of drawn to. I mean, I love a lot of American music. A lot of my record collection is probably 70%. Things like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and I just there's something about the cantina sound that I think is great for storytelling. So if you have story songs, it's just something about it, that kind of working class sound that just really suits.
How do we get that kind of interpretation over to people who
say? I guess you could say I always think about it like I write the song and then I think, well, what kind of music is the best vessel to get the idea across to people, rather than say, I'm only going to write in an English style or an Irish style,
playing guitars and singing songs. One of the aims of the Bury Folk Festival, is to be a regional event that celebrates folk music across all of its genres and interpretations. And you do that in your performances and your writing. I mean, do you ever find yourself kind of explaining on stage why people are listening to your loop pedals in a folk club? Is that, or do you find total acceptance?
I've never had anybody come up to me and argue the point. Probably got something to do with being a fairly big person. I don't think anybody kind of want to pull that thread, but I think it's just it is a tricky one. And I've had conversations with the guys at Royston Folk Club. They've asked me, what do you think about the name Royston Folk Club? And I'm like, I don't think it matters too much. I used to go out of my way to try and explain, I'm not sure, I'd be on saying, I'm not sure if I'm a folk musician and I'm not, but then I started kind of running an experiment. I started asking people, well, what do you think folk music is? And if you ask 100 people what they think it is, they all say something different. So you can come at it with like a very kind of straightforward mindset of what you want to hear, but I do think it's an umbrella term, and I do think it encompasses a lot of different things, and it's really about showing people that, I quite happily stand. I always put on the poster, folk artists, like folk and roots inspired.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
And I think, as long as people can see, they go, oh, okay, I didn't know, I didn't know that's what it was, but I think it's just about getting out there and doing it, which the festival is doing. They're putting a very eclectic lineup on, showing people that it's not just about one person's taste. And
to finish off, my good friend, with the career of Mr. Chris Fox, what have you got? What have you got coming up this year? And I hear rumours of the Mediterranean.
Yes, the Mediterranean. Well, I'm off to Portugal to play Costa del Folk. I've got the album coming out September 9th. Cambridge Folk Club. That's where we're launching it.
Yes,
but it's been a really
On a tour.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's a tour off the back of that. I've got about 15 dates on that so far, so that's just kind of nicely building. I'm going to be putting that out in a couple of days to ask people where they want me to go. Is there anywhere?
Sensible. Yeah,
where people want me to show up and stuff.
Mm.
I'm off to Black Deer Festival. I'm playing there. I've got a few sets there. Sorry, what was it?
You got a big festival. Ely?
Yeah, I'm off to Ely Folk Festival. Mad Hatters.
Birkenstock Folk Festival.
Birkenstock Folk Festival.
I've got to use. I love the way the management is there on your shoulder. It's
that's a parrot.
superb.
Anyway.
It's great.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So it's it's busy. It's still not quite as busy as I'd sort of like the optimum level of like going out and performing. I've got like
I wondered what that was, Chris, really, because you've always had this thing about a kind of a work ethic plus the music. But is there a line at which you would cross over and just do music all the time?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it. I mean, I'm technically doing it full time at the moment. I've packed up this. I've moved into the professional sphere to build up to the album because for the last album I had a job as well. I was working full time and doing the album, and it was just I never had enough time for everything. I thought, oh, this is crazy. I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends and in the middle, and So for this year I'm working solely on the music. I've always wanted to see what it's like to do 150 gigs in 1 year.
Wow.
I've never actually got right up there. I wanted to sort of
COVID has something to do with that.
Yeah. Obviously, COVID kind of smashed things in half.
Of course, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I've been lucky because a lot of not all of them, but a lot of the people that I had gigs booked with in the 2020 when it all went under have stayed true to their word, and they're gonna, they still want me to come and perform. And so I've been. It's not just obviously it's never just me, but I've been lucky with some of the people that I'm working with at the moment that they've carried me over, which has been fantastic. Yeah, because I think it might have felt like if everything had gone and all the gigs had been cancelled, to never be redone, it would have felt like starting over again. Thing to me, really.
Yeah, I mean, I from the Bury Folk Festival point of view, as we come to a close, Chris, I mean, the thing is that the desire, to get you back, to hear what you're doing, to hear the new material, to kind of see your career doing what it's doing is why we do it. So kind of. Thanks for agreeing to be booked, and we look forward immensely to the show. Yeah.
I'll always come and play. It's really nice because I don't live that close. I mean, I'm not a million miles away, but it's not somewhere I could go every week for an open mic and really build up very close relationships with people. So when the festival contacts you think, oh, great, I've made enough of an impression there to get to go back. And that feels fantastic. So I have to tell them thanks for that, and thanks for thinking of me, because it's a great gig to get. So
that's great. Well, look, we'll see you on the 25th.